We just had our first big-time rookie performance of the offseason, and it was tight end Oronde Gadsden II who went nuts at Chargers minicamp on Wednesday, showing maybe he'll have a bigger impact in 2025 than we may have thought.
You are Locked On Chargers, your daily podcast on the Los Angeles Chargers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, and welcome into the Locked On Chargers podcast. I'm your host, Daniel Wade, joined as always by my co-host, David Drogemeyer, and we've been covering the Chargers now for 10 seasons, but this is our 8th year as the host of the Locked On Chargers podcast, bringing you your team every day. Thank you to the everydayers out there for making us your first listen, and make sure that you never miss big shows like the ones we had today, because we had to talk about a big rookie performance. Go subscribe or follow for free on the Locked On Chargers YouTube channel, and listen wherever you get your podcast from. David, what do we got today?
Daniel, we know that the Chargers highly coveted Oronde Gadsden II as they traded up to secure his services, and he did not waste any time making his mark and making sure people know he is ready to break out in his rookie season. And Justin Herbert's been wearing a leg sleeve, which has left a lot of people wondering, is he hurt? He is not. Everything is fine there. And it is finally time. He has waited. He's bided his time. Now it's Tuli's time to shine.
Yeah, and it was great to hear. I mean, whether you talk to, Jesse Minter or Khalil Mack, both of them think that he's a player who's ready for the moment to have his starting chance. But today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. And David, today we had to get on and almost a somewhat emergency podcast, because we had our first kind of big on-field performance of the offseason. There's only so much you can ever take away from OTAs and mandatory minicamps and the practices where the Chargers aren't wearing pads, frankly. But there are certain positions that can have big days and show you something big time. And that's exactly what fifth-round pick Oronde Gadsden II did at Wednesday's practice, because both Daniel Popper and Eric Smith had Oronde Gadsden getting 7 catches on Wednesday, including some with the first-team offense and Justin Herbert. And David, I mean, we've talked about, Quentin Johnson last week with a few receptions here, a couple guys shining in moments there. This was like a full-blown kind of dominant practice from Oronde Gadsden, which, I mean, I don't think you can kind of undersell how excited we are about that.
Absolutely not. And I think for him, we saw it in his college tape. We saw how explosive he absolutely can be, with his ability to really get up the seam, attack the seam, has strong hands, was able to make contested catches. And of course, with the level of competition that he was playing at, there's always that question in the back of your mind. Is that ability going to be able to translate to the NFL level? And at least so far, it absolutely has. He was explosive in practice.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't matter who you ask. I mean, this is from Chris Rim, ESPN, who said, tight end Oronde Gadsden was the most active pass catcher with a bunch of catches and a few of them in traffic. And I think that is the other part here, where you have Daniel Popper putting this. Gadsden broke away from safety Derwin James Jr. on an out route and hauled in the reception along the right sideline. Safety Eloy Gilman was also closing in on the play, and Gadsden made the catch in traffic. So it's one thing to be making catches. It's another thing to be beating Derwin James, who absolutely put the clamps on every tight end he went up against last year with the best tight ends in the league. And also seeing that, right? Seeing him do it against him, and did it with every quarterback. I mean, per Popper and Eric Smith, he was catching passes from DJU. He was also catching good, big passes from Taylor Heineke, multiple explosive passes on the day per the reports. And you have Greg Roman saying in his press conference that he could see Oronde Gadsden ascending quickly, which is obviously great to hear, David. And I think if Wednesday kind of showed us anything, I think we've been a little bit kind of hesitant to just say, okay, like Oronde Gadsden's here and it's his tight end room, and he will be kind of the main receiving option for the Chargers, even as a rookie, which I'm not ready to say yet. But I think what Wednesday shows you, it's like, maybe this dude is more ready than we thought and could actually have a much bigger impact than we thought in 2025.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely was a little bit surprised that he was able to make his mark so quickly. And I know, he's out there and, hey, he's in the shorts and a T-shirt, he's making plays, which is great. But we also know with, what Greg Roman said, like, hey, we still got to work on the blocking aspect of it. And that's going to be a work in progress throughout the season, of course, and probably for the next few years while they get that kind of hammered in and bring that, and start building him as a more complete tight end. But the receiving chops are real. Like his ability to go up and get it and beat legit defenders it is already kind of showing itself. And yeah, maybe he's going to be able to work his way in and get in on the offense a lot earlier than we expected. And of course, with the Chargers also bringing in Tyler Conklin, I think is just, natural to assume that he was probably going to have to supersede or leapfrog a couple of guys on the depth chart before he was able to make plays. But it seems like by all accounts, everybody loves him, and they probably are already thinking about ways to scheme him open and get plays designed specifically for him.
Absolutely. I mean, how could you not, especially for a tight end who has some kind of, that can bring that dynamic level of play, bring the big plays, because that's not really what Tyler Conklin brings to the table. But you do know that Will Dissly is going to be a favorite for Greg Roman because he's one of the best blocking tight ends in the league. And you also have heard Greg Roman say that Tyler Conklin is a very well-rounded kind of complete player at the position. And the one thing that kept Stone Smart off the field last year was kind of the inability to block, even when he was able to get out there and make some explosive plays. But the good news is even though Stone Smart transitioned from being a wide receiver, he was mostly a quarterback before that. This is a guy who brings kind of all of the aspects of a really good receiver and also has, actual experience in multiple years of blocking players and being used in those moments. And I think he can be effective as a blocker in certain areas. He's just limited, right?
Yeah.
So it is good to hear, Greg Roman say he's picked up the offense really well. He's been getting or Justin Herbert say he's picked up the offense really well per Eric Smith, and he's been getting a bunch of reps with us. That's the other thing. Him even being out there to catch passes from Justin Herbert and having, those first team reps this early, I
that's
think
a
is going to be
statement
huge.
in within itself.
No, it truly is. And I mean, if it, pans out, you have really the first kind of truly dynamic tight end that Justin Herbert has ever had, because even Hunter Henry wasn't that. And that's probably the highest level he's gotten from a tight end. And that was as a rookie. So this, is a guy who could potentially bring some chunk plays to your offense and bring other actual receiving threat and game planning against that, really only goes towards Ladd McConkey right now. But
I love it.
He wasn't the only one making plays. It was the most exciting, but also it was all about the rookies because Trey Harris was out there making plays. And David, we are going to eat up as much of this content as we can. If Justin Herbert's rookie weapons are out there making plays, that is something that is worth doing an emergency podcast for.
No question about it. Trey Harris, this is from Daniel Popper of The Athletic, a second-round pick, made the play of the day on offense on a go route down the left sideline in 11-on-11. Veteran quarterback Dante Jackson was in coverage. Heineke floated a deep ball over the outstretched arms of Jackson. Harris showed off tremendous concentration and ball skills, securing the catch with one hand while falling to the ground. And I think we saw that too when we're watching him on tape, is his ability to track the ball over his shoulder, make those big kind of catches down the field. And that's a skill set that had been lacking, at least for the Chargers offense from last year. So to have that kind of come in, it was really, really good. Also, said Harris also worked consistently with the first team offense. Earlier in practice, he ran a sharp slant route, beating cornerback Tarheeb Still for the reception. And also, this is from Greg Roman. He said he's a versatile guy. He's got good size, smart, can play inside and out. So really good to see and hear about, Trey Harris making plays, especially after, getting some kind of critical words spoken about him by, his wide receiver coach, Sanjay Lal, saying he was a little bit behind the 8 ball physically from a conditioning standpoint, but the ball skills, the ability is there, and he's making plays already. So I can't wait to see what he is able to do in training camp. I know he's one of your guys, and you're excited to watch him too.
Yeah, absolutely. And it was for that reason, right? To get someone that could come up with those plays. And I mean, how many, down the field, one-handed catches for big chunk gains can you remember from last year with the receivers that the Chargers had? Because I think I remember one, maybe Quentin Johnston reached out for one and got one of those, but that's like the only example I can think of off the top of my head. So to
maybe
have somebody
Ladd
who's doing that, I mean, against, and it's just different, right? Because Ladd was really good in contested catch situations, but obviously height is going to be a limiting factor that it's just not with Trey Harris, who's also, like Ladd, a good athlete too. And also shout out Brenden Rice, who reportedly caught a touchdown over Tarheeb Still, winning in a jump ball situation. So doing that against Dante Jackson in the case of Trey Harris, right, and Brendan Rice beating Tarheeb Still, guys that we actually, have some respect for and think about in a different light than we did last season, all really good. But I mean, to have these rookie weapons out here making plays against NFL veterans is not something I think that should be taken lightly, even at this point in the offseason. I think is a major good sign for things to come, and especially for Trey Harris, who had one clip of him running around out, and you have people just dragging him for how slow he is, and it's just so stupid, people being worried about that already. He's going to be out there making plays. Is the reason they took him in the second round. It was nice to see him make one. But talking about what people overreact about online, Justin Herbert has been wearing a leg sleeve. The good news is he is not injured. We're getting into all that and more in today's Locked On Chargers podcast. First, I need to tell you that you can say goodbye to the sticky notes, scribbled plans on the fridge, and overlapping calendar invites, because the Skylight Calendar is here to bring clarity to the chaos and help families stay organized without the stress. The sleek digital display syncs with your existing calendars, Google, Apple, Outlook, and more, making it simple to track appointments, practices, dinners, and reminders all in one easy-to-see place. It's something that can bring a family together, and no more me and my wife just be like, oh, actually, I texted you that 6 days ago on Wednesday at 2 p.m., which happened very often to me before this Skylight Calendar, because now I know exactly where it is and where I need to be on time, which is great, especially when you have a 14-month-old running around. I love it. My dad loved it too, so I was able to sneak him one. I'm hoping he doesn't watch today's episode, because I got him one for Father's Day as well. And right now, Skylight is offering our listeners $30 off their 15-inch calendars by going to skylightcal.com/NFL. Go to skylightcal.com/NFL for $30 off your 15-inch calendar. That's skylightcal.com/NFL. David, we have more to talk about from Chargers OTAs on Wednesday, especially because the man, the myth, the legend, Justin Herbert was up at the podium. So Daniel Popper had a good chance to ask him, hey, what's up with that leg sleeve? And let me first say this. Obviously, with Justin Herbert and the injuries that he's had over the last several seasons, we're kind of at a point as a fan base where you have to be a little bit afraid, and you're always going to be a little bit paranoid. And every time he takes a hit or you see something out of place, you're going to have a little pit in your stomach and hope for the best, obviously. But a lot of fans also expect the worst. So when he was asked about it, Daniel Popper asked, hey, what's up with the leg sleeve? He said, first of all, they're just tights, which then, he would kind of follow it up on him like, okay, well, there's something else there that you didn't normally wear. And he basically said that he's just wearing tights, and then what he has now is just to keep his knees warmed up. So just knees in general, Herbert said, according to Popper, something that over the course of the years, it's just best to stay out there, stay loose, and stay warm. So, David, I understand, the mild panic amongst the Chargers fan base, even if it's an overreaction. I would say I'm not overly concerned about this at all, and hopefully this is something that can put this to bed for the time being.
Yeah, it's a non-starter. It's a non-story. It's nothing. I mean, athletes wear these type of things all the time. You see it in every single sport across sports, period. So it's just not something that you should spend any kind of energy worrying about. If Justin Herbert had any kind of injury, we would know about it because they would tell us. I mean, believe it, okay?
To an extent, yeah, exactly.
Sure, to an extent. Obviously, right now, Coach Harbaugh, whenever we're talking about injuries, it's like pulling teeth. He's not going to give you really anything at all. But if it was anything significant, if it was anything to really worry about, we would be notified. And so I think this is a non-story. People can relax. Don't worry about it. Justin is perfectly fine.
Yeah, that's what it seems like, right now. So I think that, what I take kind of most seriously is Daniel Popper being out of the practice and saying, hey, he looks like the normal Justin Herbert that I've seen out here every time he's been out here when he's healthy. So,
and he would know. He sees him all the time.
Yeah, let's say he looks like his normal self. So until it turns into something more than that, nothing to kind of worry about right now. Obviously, the great thing about Justin Herbert is, that even when he's banged up, like he's always going to play through it for the most part, unless he literally has broken fingers on both hands.
Hard to do that one.
Yeah, but at the same time, like, I understand. And until you're a guy that is making it through 17 games without it becoming kind of a major hindrance to your game, because at points it was last year, this is always going to be part of the conversation, especially if something looks a little bit out of place. But one thing that Justin Herbert also talked about was the happiness that he had to have his friend and wide receiver Mike Williams back in the building. And it kind of felt like, David, if getting Shane Day back last year as quarterback coach was Justin Herbert kind of flexing his power to go get somebody he wants, it feels like Mike Williams would kind of be in that same category. Someone he has a true relationship with, and someone where the chemistry, even though Mike has not been practicing this week and has been working off to the side, you're not as worried about it because that rapport is already there.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's great news, and definitely this is another example of Justin Herbert saying, hey, this is a guy that I want, and I think the Chargers originally didn't really want to get rid of Mike, but they just couldn't bring him back at the salary cap number that he had, which was $20 million. It just was not feasible, and so they had to make a move, whether they wanted to or not. Sometimes it's just the business of the NFL, but Justin Herbert said on having Mike Williams back, it's good to see him. He's one of those guys that changes the way you play football. It's good to see him back. 50-50 balls are not quite 50-50, and I think that's a very generous way or a very nice way of saying it. We all know it's definitely not 50-50 when it comes to Mike Williams. He is the best jump ball wide receiver in the NFL, period, in my opinion. You throw him up the football 9 times out of 10, he's going up and he's getting it. That's just what he does. That's his calling card. That's what he's done every single year that he's been in the NFL, mostly with Justin Herbert. So yes, that chemistry has already been established. They've made a ton of big plays together, and I can't wait to see what the next chapter of this relationship looks like for the Chargers offense.
Yeah, and I'm glad that Daniel Popper kind of, pushed on that after he asked him, why he thought there was a different kind of offense with Justin Herbert there. You can play football differently because, even in a down season last year, Mike Williams caught over 60% of his contested balls or his contested targets. So I think that is very true always with Mike Williams. So many plays that he's made in the history of Chargers franchise. I mean, truly has some of the bigger moments and more clutch plays, whether it's that Raiders game, that went to overtime, whether it's the Broncos game where he gets him downfield for the game-winning
Chiefs walk-off.
Chiefs walk-off, exactly, and multiple touchdowns in that game. I think 3 even went a rushing one.
Yeah, he went crazy in that one.
Yeah, he just has so many moments, and I think this is a situation where kind of both sides saw the grass isn't always greener. Mike Williams goes between 2 different teams and really fails to kind of make a big impact in either the Jets or the Steelers organization. And with Justin Herbert, he didn't have that guy to where when everything breaks down and nobody's open, you have a guy that you can throw it to anyways in Mike Williams that might not always make the catch, but it's almost never being intercepted because he's so good at being able to target the football and use his length and be able to come down with those ridiculous catches. So great to see Mike Williams back, and the rapport is there and that he's going to be a trusted target for Justin Herbert right away, which will be beneficial, especially early when you have so many new guys that he might not have that chemistry with yet. But I did think it was interesting because Daniel Popper did also ask Greg Roman just about how much differently they can kind of scheme this year, at least as far as taking shots down the field, because they have more guys that can go get it, whether it's Mike Williams like we just talked about, or Trey Harris that made a big explosive play down the field, Oronde Gadsden, multiple 20-plus yard catches today, and also you have KLS, who has not been practicing. And if there was somebody that's not practicing, I'd be a little bit more concerned about it. It'd probably be him, just because he's a rookie. You want him to get out there as soon as possible, because you have other dudes out there today.
The reps.
Making big plays too, right? Like other guys are out there making the plays you're not able to go make right now.
That's one of the easiest ways to lose your spot, right there.
Yeah, or just you're at least, where you stack up entering training camp on that depth chart. But I thought this was very informative from Popper, from Greg Roman. The transcript from Popper said we're certainly not going to just be bombs away every play, but it's going to allow us to attack down the field more, or at least present the opportunity to. So we'll hopefully have that aspect of our offense, as well as our ground and pound mentality, have those different options available to where it's realistic and legitimate. Really excited about that. And it's such a great point, David, because yes, they'll be more effective. And I think they were more aggressive than people thought they were last year anyways, but they'll be more effective because they have guys that can go down there and do it. And also they have the running backs to where that part should be a good part of their game. And it was awesome hearing Greg Roman say that even in shirts, Amarion Hampton's already impressing him.
Yeah, he said he's the total package, his vision. I'm really pleased with what I'm seeing right now. You don't see a lot of guys find the hole like he's doing right now, which is exciting. And I think we saw that, with his vision and his ability to just run through people, run around people, and to be able to take it the distance, and just the consistency in his game. Back-to-back 1,500-plus yard rushing seasons, 15 touchdowns in each of those seasons. And last year, the Chargers were fantastic with play action. Say what you want about Greg Roman's offense. There's obvious flaws there. One of them was definitely not the play action game. It was very, very effective. And I think this year, with the hopes of actually having a legitimate running game with Amarion Hampton and Najee Harris, it's only going to be that much more devastating this year.
Absolutely. And he's right. Like, just having the threat of it, just having people have to respect the deep part of the field because they know you have guys that can beat you there, changes everything, and also open things up for guys like Ladd McConkey who do most of their damage in the middle of the field on, intermediate routes. So awesome. That's exactly what you hope for. This offense at its best is pulling elements from all of those things and should be a much more explosive offense with bringing all of those aspects together. But it is, you hear Greg Roman saying that about Amarion Hampton. I believe it was Derwin James just saying, like, hey, you see him get through the hole and you kind of know it's a little different. I heard Daniel Popper on his Hops with podcast also saying, like, he has the most juice, and you can see that now. Like, when he touches it, it just looks different, even if you're not in pads yet. But great to hear that. A lot of rookies making big plays and really showing really good things this early is something we wanted to see for sure. But we still have more to get into, including why Jesse Minter and also Khalil Mack think that Tuli Tuipulotu is in for a big season, and more in today's Locked On Chargers podcast. The NBA playoffs are in full swing, and every night delivers highlight-worthy performances, major momentum shifts, and can't-miss moments. Whether it's a game-winning shot or a breakout player, there's never been a better time to get in on the action because FanDuel makes it easy to stay in the game before tip-off and live with player props, performance trends, and same-game parlays. Fans have more ways than ever to play smart and win big. And also, we're right in the heat of two big-time finals, not just the NBA finals, but also the Stanley Cup finals as well. And both of those are 2-1. It looks like we're going to have some series because the underdogs are leading in both of those. And you know that I'm riding with the Ice Cats tonight. Big game 4. The Panthers just embarrassed the Oilers, and I think the best bet is taking the Oilers -1.5. Maybe they blow them out again. You can still get that at +164. You bet 100, you win 164. And if you're new to FanDuel, it's the perfect time to sign up. Head to FanDuel.com and place your first $5 bet. If it wins, you'll get $200 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, official sports betting partner of the NBA. David, we still have more to get into because we did get to hear from Khalil Mack and Jesse Minter at the podium, and I thought they both had some really enlightening statements, and both of them were in lockstep about their belief in Tuli Tuipulotu, who is about to step in to really, really big shoes and footsteps with Joey Bosa leaving the building. So we have to get into that. But thank you, as always, to all the everydayers for making us your first listen. If you need a second listen, make sure to check out the Locked On NFL Scouting Show with Kyle Krabs and Joe Marino as they keep you up to date with everything going on around the NFL, not just the Chargers, on YouTube and wherever you get your podcast from, to make you the most informed NFL fan this offseason. So, David, it was great hearing from Jesse Minter. Haven't heard from him in a while. It was also great hearing from Khalil Mack and just, him talking about how the Chargers were basically the only place he was going to end up, even if there were some other places that were potentially interested. So glad that he's back. But the bigger question is who's across from him, right? Because that was step one. Get Khalil Mack back. The second kind of step there is, okay, well, who is going to replace Joey Bosa? And even though you didn't get the best version of Joey Bosa last year, that's still really big, shoes to fill for Tuli Tuipulotu, even with the amount of snaps he's played over the last couple of seasons. And David, whether it was Jesse Minter or Khalil Mack, it was great to hear that neither of them are kind of shaken by the thought of him filling those shoes, and also both expect for him to have a really big season with where he's at in his career.
Yeah, Jesse Minter called Tuli Tuipulotu an ascending superstar type of player. That is a gigantic endorsement.
Yeah, I saw Popper put that, and I don't know where it was in his press conference, but man, that's a big time thing to say for Jesse Minter.
That's a ringing endorsement. He also went on to say you can kind of you kind of know going into the previous year that you're third, Minter said of Tuli Tuipulotu. Now you kind of know you're going into the year, this is my chance. One of the guys is gone now, obviously Joey Bosa. I think you have a different level of confidence, and I think that's 100% true and very real. Like, hey, last year you knew Joey Bosa was going to be on one side and Khalil Mack was going to be on the other. Not that Tuli was not going to play, because Tuli did play quite a bit, but he was never going to be the main guy last year. Now is his time to shine. He has waited very, very patiently. This is year 3 for Tuli, and I think the one thing to remind everybody is that Tuli's still very, very young. He's still in his early 20s, so he has
came in at 19.
Yeah, that which is wild to think about considering most of the ages now, obviously with the COVID years of all these players coming in now. But Tuli, it's his time, and he has a lot of support, including Khalil Mack, who called him a special player and said that he would not be surprised if he was a 10 to 12 plus sack guy this year.
Absolutely. And that's, I mean, awesome to see. And I think, we said something very similar to that a couple weeks ago when talking about Tuli Tui Palotu with a full starting size load. Like, he's going to put up double-digit sacks more than likely. And that's, I still believe that. And I think you hear it from this, Khalil Mack and Jesse Minter here. And another part that we've also discussed, taking off the burden, 300 plus special team snaps, man. Like, to be able to put your sole focus on the defense because you are waiting your turn. And I think in that, the days of transfer portals and players not wanting to be a depth piece or not wanting to wait and earn that spot, like, it is a little refreshing to see someone that is ready to kind of take over, and refreshing for the Chargers to kind of lose someone like a Joey Bosa and then have someone you're so excited about in Tuli Tuipulotu ready to kind of step in and fill those shoes. So we don't know who will eventually, replace Khalil Mack, but I absolutely think Tuli is ready to take over as the starting edge rusher. But another kind of interesting thing hearing Jesse Minter talk about, a really kind of baseline theme that he had when talking about the free agents the Chargers went and signed, was kind of the thought process of trying to replace the guys that they lost, specifically two big ones in Poona Ford and Christian Fulton, two starting level players. And it felt like kind of what Jesse Minter said is just like, we love to see those guys do great. Like, it's so cool because you're like, man, this guy came to me, I kind of transformed his game, and then he went and signed a big contract, which sucks because he leaves, but like, you're so happy for him. And now it's about, where are the next guys? Who's the next Poona Ford? Because maybe they got one in the few guys they signed. Who's the next Christian Fulton? And they attacked it kind of with numbers, but he also said that he expects the defensive line to be better than it was in 2025 because they have more players there that are capable of going out there and giving you something.
Yeah, he said maybe there's more total capable guys now that we have at the than we had at this time last year, and let it all shake out. That's kind of how I feel about the D-line. He also said in a lot of positions we traded maybe one or two guys for two or three guys. When you look at it, there's a little bit of the committee approach. So yeah, and I think that's true across both sides of the football, not just on the defense. It was on the offense as well. They added multiple guys to almost every single position group. So they really, wanted to use and take this year to continue to overhaul this roster and build it in the image of what Jim Harbaugh and Greg Roman and Jesse Minter wanted out of their units and their football team.
And let's be honest, the other kind of thing he said there is last year Poona Ford wasn't who Poona Ford ended up being at the beginning of the year. No one thought Poona Ford was going to be the best Chargers defensive tackle in, 7, 8, 10 years. Like, no one thought that when he was outcast right from the Buffalo Bills and was a healthy scratch in half their game.
Yeah.
The Chargers brought him back, and basically what he's saying is like, we might not be able to go spend big money on someone who can play at the level that Poona Ford did last year because we got him cheap and then he did that. Now it's about how do we find the next Poona Ford, and that's what they think they can get. And he also praised Tier Tart and said he was super excited to have, Joe Ortiz bring him back, and said it was a big addition to have him back. And also said that he's a guy with a really high ceiling, which I think we all agree with. And if he gets more snaps and can build on that, he could be something special. Also said that he thinks he'll really get a lot of benefit, sticking around in that specific building for another season. And he it was a guy who kind of came in with some character red flags when the Chargers ended up picking him up, and maybe, was at several stops wasn't the most coachable guy or didn't get along best with the staff. That he did last year, and it paid off in a big way because in limited snaps, he was super, super effective. But it wasn't just the defensive lineman, you're right. It was also the cornerbacks, where they had one Christian Fulton last year, and this year they attacked it with multiple players, like a Dante Jackson, who we said was starting yesterday when we talked about it, and a Benjamin St. Juste, saying that, they're kind of building this like a basketball team, and they have a bunch of different kind of sizes and matchups that they can go to because of the depth that they built in the offseason.
And we saw that last year. I mean, which was very different. I think seeing the number of guys that were rotated in on the defensive line, in the defensive backfield, and the linebackers, they all rotated all of those guys, trying to keep guys fresh, but also trying to play the matchups, trying to take guys that have certain skill sets, certain traits, and get them out there to defend certain types of players. So it looks like that's just the philosophy in which Jesse Minter likes to play defense, and that's going to continue with a lot of different options. It's not just the receivers that you have different types of body types out there, different types of players. It's also the defensive backs as well. You have different guys that can do different things to try to take away what the offense is trying to do to you.
Yeah, I'm interested. One of those, 2-for-1s again, as far as the cornerbacks getting 2 corners instead of Christian Fulton. We lost a guy, felt like we could use some depth, a mixture of size and speed. Ben's a big corner, similar build and frame-wise to Cam. Another matchup type. Some weeks you play these giant receivers. Sometimes you get other types of receivers. But we're talking about Dante Jackson. It was very interesting because they are getting more bounce back candidates, and especially Dante Jackson, who has played at a high level in this league, even if he didn't last year and the metrics didn't like him. But he was great in zone coverage. And it's one of those things we talked about. And what Jesse Minter said was he's played well on defenses that he can see the ball. Go get the ball. He had 5 picks last year. He has 19 career interceptions. And I just think that his skill set matches the way that we play. So I do believe that they're going to find this year's Christian Fulton, maybe even improve upon it, right? I do believe they'll be able to find this year's Poona Ford. And maybe we're talking about Deshaun Hand in a totally different light at this time next year as a priority free agent to go get, These are all things that Jesse Minter in just one season has been able to get us to trust, right? To be able to find these pieces off the scrap heap. No, offense to those players, but guys looking to kind of resurrect their careers in some sense. And they want to go to Jesse Minter. And my God, I believe he's going to do it. And he's going to kind of turn some of this coal into diamonds, right? So I'm excited to see how it works out. And the other thing he said is like, this time last year, we kind of had the same thing. We didn't think one guy was going to take these jobs and run away with it. You start with the committee approach, and then, the rest will play itself out. And if somebody emerges, then that will kind of be the main guy. But you just think, hey, they're going to get a couple of guys. Like some of these dudes, again, are going to get these really minimal deals and far outplay them and then hopefully potentially turn into some compensatory picks down the road for you. But that's going to wrap things up for today's show. There is another minicamp practice today. As you guys are hearing this, if anything big happens, we will be back with you guys tomorrow. If we have to talk about it, if we need another emergency pod, this is our 3rd pod of the week. But if not, we'll be back with you guys on Monday to talk about it. But for you to make sure you don't miss it, go subscribe or follow for free on the Locked On Chargers YouTube channel and listen wherever you get your podcasts from, as well as finding the show and all of our thoughts and all practices and everything on our Twitter at LockedOnLAC or my personal Twitter at DanTalkSports, David Drogemeyer at DroTalkSD. And you can also find the show and also all of our posts on Instagram at Locked On Chargers and also our Locked On Chargers Facebook page. So excited to see some rookies, stepping into the spotlight and making some plays, Dave. That's always going to get us hyped up and excited for what the rest of this offseason is going to bring. And thank you guys, as always, for being with us. We'll be back with you guys soon. Until then, take it easy and go Bolts.